this video, I'll be demonstrating how to configure switch configuration profiles on the Ruckus Cloud. Switch configuration profiles allow you to specify parameters that will be pre-configured on ICX switches when they are added to a venue. These configurable parameters include VLANs and access control lists, or ACLs. The VLAN configuration also allows for the configuration of layer 2 domain level parameters, including spanning tree, DHCP snooping and ARP protection, and multicast protocols. Additionally, you can configure switch model-specific port settings to automatically assign ports as untagged or tagged members of VLANs. These profiles are then assigned to venues where they are automatically applied to all ICX switches assigned to the venue. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how easy it is to set up a switch configuration profile on the Ruckus Cloud. Switch configuration profiles can be configured by clicking on the Switch Configuration tab on the left side panel of the Ruckus Cloud user interface. In this screen, you can view and edit any existing switch configuration profiles or create a new one. Let's go through the process of creating a new one by clicking on Add Switch Configuration Profile on the top right corner of the page. This brings up the Add Switch Configuration Profile workflow, which outlines the 5 steps needed to create a profile. These include general properties, VLANs, ACLs, assign to venues, and wraps up with a summary. In the General Properties task, you'll simply configure the profile name and optionally a profile description. Once the required fields are populated, you can click Next to proceed. The VLANs task is where you add the VLANs that will be created on ICX devices that match the profile. Click Add VLAN to define a new VLAN. In the Add VLAN workflow, you will define the parameters of the VLAN. The only required parameter is the VLAN ID. All others can be left at default values if desired. IPv4 DHCP snooping and ARP inspection can be enabled, but do note if they are enabled, you will be required to define trusted ports for them later in the Add Switch Configuration workflow. You can also enable IGMP snooping in either active or passive mode. The default multicast IGMP version is version 2, but version 3 can be selected if desired. Spanning tree can be enabled in either 802.1d standard mode, or you can employ 802.1w rapid spanning tree. In both cases, you are given the option to select which out of the supported switch types will be configured as the likely root bridge. Lastly, you can define model-specific port settings by clicking Add Model. In the Select Ports by Model workflow that is presented, you can select one of the supported ICX switch models and define the tagged and untagged ports. You start by simply selecting your switch model and clicking Next. In step 2 of this workflow, you select the ports that will be untagged members of this VLAN. You select them one at a time or select multiple by dragging your clicked mouse over a group of them. Click Next once you have selected the untagged ports. In the final task of this workflow, you will select the ports that would be tagged members of this VLAN. Notice that all ports selected as untagged cannot be selected as tagged. Once our tagged ports are selected, you can click Create. You will see a summary of the model-specific settings you just completed and can add more models for the other ICX devices in your network. Once you have added all your devices, you can click Save. This will bring you back to the Add Switch Configuration Profile workflow and display a summary of the VLAN you just defined. You will repeat the previous process for each VLAN to be configured in the profile. I'll quickly configure one more VLAN as an example. Once all VLANs are configured, click Next to proceed to ACLs. The ACLs task is where you add access control lists that will be added to ICX devices that are added to a venue where the profile is assigned. Click Add ACL to define a new access control list. In the Add ACL workflow, you give the ACL a name, select the type of either standard or extended, then add your rule. Each ACL automatically populates with a Permit Any rule at sequence number 65,000. To add a rule entry to the ACL, click Add Rule. In the Add Rule dialog for an extended ACL, you provide a sequence number, define it as a permit or deny rule, define the protocol, define the source and destination networks and optional ports, and once completed, click Save. Now I'll quickly configure and save one more rule to show you how multiple rules are applied in an ACL. Adding rules will display in the Add ACLs dialog. Once you've completed the ACL configuration, you can click Save. This will bring you back to the Add Switch Configuration Profile workflow and display a summary of the ACL you just defined. You will repeat the previous process for each ACL to be configured in the profile. Once all ACLs are configured, click Next to proceed to the next task. You may have already noticed, but this is a new task. The Trusted Ports task is only present because we have configured a switch-specific VLAN with DHCP snooping and/or ARP inspection enabled. If these features are not enabled, this task will not be present. You must select Trusted Ports for any ICX switch models you have defined. Click on Please Select to define the trusted ports. In the Select Trusted Ports dialog, select up to 4 ports from the drop-down that will be DHCP Snoop and/or ARP Inspection Trusted Ports. Once you've selected your trusted ports for each defined model, you can click Next. In the Venues task, you select which configured venues this switch configuration profile will be applied to. For each venue, simply toggle the Activate switch to On. If you attempt to activate a configuration profile on a venue that already has a switch configuration profile applied, a message will be displayed asking you to confirm that you want to apply the new profile, which will be disruptive to the venue. Once all required venues are selected, click Next. Finally, you will be presented with a summary of your switch configuration profile. You have the option to go back and modify any of your settings by clicking Back, or complete the switch configuration profile by clicking Save. In the main switch configuration profile window, you have the option to select a profile and edit it. You can edit the general properties, add or edit VLANs and ACLs, and edit trusted port settings. Once these edits are saved, the configuration is pushed to all switches within the venue.